Hey everybody, welcome to Bored Online, Bored Offline. Today we have the final video in our top 30 best games of all time. We're going through 10 through 1 and we're going to be doing it in 10 minutes. Before we get started with that, I want to let you know, I've mentioned this in the previous videos, but 1,327 plays as of the time I made this list over the course of 155 games, and roughly 1,014 hours is where this list comes from. So like I said, 155 games, which means that the top 30 is roughly 20% of the games that I've played. And of course, by next year, hopefully we can push that out to 35 or maybe even 40, depending on how many new games I get in this year. With all that in mind, I also want to mention that we do have a new sponsor, Board Game Co. This is a website where you can go and you can buy games, you can sell games, you can trade games. So if you're looking for a hard to find game, or if you're looking for a good price on a game, or if you're trying to figure out how to get rid of the games that you don't want anymore, you can buy games, sell games, or trade them at Board Game Co. You can buy, sell, trade your way into a better collection. Hey everybody, also real quick before we get to the rest of the video, just wanted to let you know that we do have a contest going on right now. It's going to be going on until June 17th to give away one of these t-shirts. Not just this t-shirt, there's also a t-shirt very similar without the lettering, still have Bored Cthulhu on there, lots of different colors. Follow the link for the contest in the description below, and again, it goes until June 17th. This is brought to you by Geeky Goodies, who makes these t-shirts for us. They're fantastic t-shirts, feel great, fit well. And yeah, go check it out and let's get to the rest of the video. All right, and the 10 minutes starts right now. Okay, so number 10 is Blood Rage. Now this was number 15 last year, but this is a game that I so badly want to get back to the table. Probably gonna have to finally try it back out again, because it's been, I think, it's been maybe 2 years since I played this game. But I'm gonna need to get it back to the table and try it again at Origins this year. Now, Blood Rage is a I believe there's 3 rounds in the game. You're Vikings. You, at the beginning of each round, you are drafting cards, and these cards are going to kind of determine exactly what it is you're going to be able to do in the game. Now you have a map that slowly gets smaller and smaller each round because Ragnarok is occurring, and you're going to be fighting over different areas of the map. You can summon monsters to help you, you know, with the cards that you get. It's not always necessarily a bad thing when your guys die, because you can get points from that. You know, dying in glorious battle. Then at the, you know, in the next round, Valhalla will open up and your warriors come back to you, and it is a really cool game that I really need to play more and explore more, and I would love to own a copy, but I do not have it yet. But that is my number 10, Blood Rage. Number 9 is Mansions of Madness 2nd Edition. This was 12 last year. It's gone up some. Mansions of Madness 1st Edition was the second designer game that I ever really got into. Small World was the first, and then Mansions of Madness 1st Edition. The first edition was one versus many. You had a game master, or I can't remember what he was called, but you had the guy in charge who in charge of the bad guys, and then all the up to 4 investigators. Mansions of Madness 2nd Edition uses an app now to control the bad guys, and you can have either 4 or 5 investigators. And you're going through you know, whatever the particular map is, but because of the app, you start in one room, and when you open a door, then the app tells you what the next room is going to be, and you put it out. And you're going to come into contact with monsters. It's part of the Arkham series from Fantasy Flight Games, so you got all these types of Cthulhu-style monsters that are involved, and it's really a lot of fun, a lot of exploration. You're not really investigating. It's not like you have to solve the mystery really yourself. It's, you know, you're kind of just exploring. It's much more of an exploration game. But that is Mansions of Madness 2nd Edition, number 9. Number 8 is Orlean, which was number 9 last year, so kind of in the same spot. This is a bag building game where everybody starts with the same workers in their bag, and you pull out a certain number every round, and you use those workers to get new workers, or to make you can buy technology so that you need to use less workers for certain areas, or you know, you can then collect different goods. The theme is essentially you're going around France and trying to become the most prestigious merchant and you can build trading posts and collect cheese and wine and grain and cloth, and hopefully at the end of the game you're the one with the most points. That's Orlean, number 8. Number 7 is Clank in Space. Now I haven't played the original Clank. The only version of Clank I played is Clank in Space. It is so much fun. It's one of these games that is hilarious, as far as like the text that you see on the cards, the little like kind of hidden gems, so I'm always finding something new and laughing about it when I find these little references. But it is a deck building game where you are a thief that is snuck onto this warlord's spaceship. You're going to try to steal one of his priceless artifacts, and whoever gets the most points at the end of the game, based on what they steal and based on some other things, based on stuff that's in their deck, they're the winner. But the key is that while you're doing this, while you're sneaking through this guy's ship, you're making noise, and you put the noise cubes into a bag, and you put other cubes into the bag, and then you're drawing a certain number of cubes every time, and then that's how you end up taking damage. And so there's this real like tense moment every time you draw cubes out of the bag. Are you taking damage? What's going on? And meanwhile, you're trying to make your deck more powerful, and you're trying to deal with the enemies that end up showing up. That is Clank in Space, number 7. Number 6 is Mage Knight. This was number 4 last year. It's fallen a couple notches. Still such a fantastic game. It is probably out of all of these games, it definitely was one of my original games that really was daunting to get into. It was definitely the very first game where I felt that. You're this powerful Mage Knight. You're going through whatever the scenario is. Sometimes you're just going to conquer 2 cities. Sometimes you're going to liberate mines, whatever scenario you've chosen. And it is a deck building game, but you only go through your deck a few times. So it's not like a deck building game where you're constantly, running through the deck. This one, you actually don't really have any reason to try to get rid of cards from your deck, because the bigger your deck is, the more options you're going to have during the round. And I'm falling way behind here. Mage Knight is such a fantastic game. You have to check it out. That's my number 6. Number 5 is 7th Continent. This was number 2 last year. Fallen a little bit. 7th Continent is an exploration game in every sense of the word. You have a deck of cards that all players share as their life force, and you're exploring this continent with only very vague clues as to what exactly you're trying to do as you're trying to lift this curse off of you. The continent itself always stays the same. The land masses are always in the exact same places, but how you end up interacting with those cards could be different based on what's going on with this particular curse. And so as you explore, you pull out the land cards, and you're building, and sometimes you might find a hidden number on a card, which lets you swap it out for something else, and now you've found something hidden there. You sometimes have choices. Are you going to take this submarine way off this way, straight ahead, or way off this way? And wherever you go, it's completely open. You land on different spots of the continent, and you got to keep working from there. So much fun. 7th Continent. Number 4 is Root. This is brand new to the list. This one has skyrocketed into my favorites ever since I got a hold of it. Root is a kind of like a coin war game, counterinsurgency, but basically the idea is that there's 4 different factions in the base game. Each faction plays completely differently. You have the Marquis de Cat, which start completely in control of the board, and they're this industrial faction. They make most of their points from building things. Then you have the Eerie, which used to be in control, and now they only have one little area on the board, and so now they're going to come back out and they're going to try to take over everything again. And you've got the Woodland Alliance, which can just pop up anywhere on the board, initially, and then spread from there. And they are trying to fight back against these 2 different kind of superpowers that have really been oppressing the rest of the forest. And then finally, you've got the Vagabond, which is kind of like, that lone hero in fantasy books, Aragorn or whatever, who's just going around whooping up on everybody, and generally sowing chaos so that he can kind of rise to the top. That is Root number 4. Number 3 is Gloom Haven, which was my number 3 last year, still number 3. This is the closest thing to old school video game RPG in a box that I can find. Massive fairly open world. You do have to unlock areas before you can go to them, but massive, massive world. There's no dice rolling. There is a deck of cards that alters how your combat can go, but that is highly modifiable. And then you have a hand of cards that you start at the beginning of every round with, that as you upgrade, you add new cards to that get better and better and better. So many cool monsters. Nothing about it is your typical fantasy. Everything feels fresh and original. That's Gloom Haven, number 3. Number 2 is Medora, brand new to the list, all the way up at number 2. Medora, Unintentional Malum, Act 1. This game is massive. It has a book that thick. I kid you not, watching my videos, the adventure book, that is the story of Medora. That is what you're working your way through. It has... when you're playing it, this is a dice fest, by the way. I mean, there's a lot of dice rolling. There's all kinds of items and weapons and armor, and it's this weird mix of like modern stuff with fantasy and spells. But the adventure book, as you're going through it, you'll have an encounter, and then you might have 7 pages of text of story after one encounter before you get to the next encounter. It's crazy and awesome. And there's an app that'll read the story out loud to you if you don't want to spend that time reading, or maybe you have a group that you're playing with. That is my number 2. Number one last year as well, Kingdom Death Monster. This game is just, it defies logic how it works, and yet it does, because it is just all these random events that somehow coalesce into this cohesive story every time. Now, there are fixed events as well, but even those fixed events have random events within them. And it is just this dark, oppressive feel the entire time you're playing it. The monsters are weird and creepy, and even the people, the heroes, the survivors, you're not particularly nice people either. You're just trying to survive. You might as well be one of the monsters as well, and maybe the monsters view you as just another monster. And you can't get hung up on your individual survivors dying. You have to do what's best for the settlement to survive. And that is my 10 minutes. I hope you have enjoyed this video. I really enjoyed putting together this top 30 list for y'all this year. I've got coming up in July, we'll have our most played games of the past year. So be sure to check that out. That's always a good time. Really appreciate y'all hanging out. Go back and check out the rest of this list if you haven't seen it yet. Find me over on Twitter at boredoffline. I will be at Origins this year, my very first con I'm ever going to get to go to, so I'm very excited about that. Come and find me, come and say hey, play some games, and until next time, if you're bored online, bored offline.